At my mom's birthday, my brother's son threw my son's drawing into the fire and yelled, "Nobody wants his crappy art anyway." Everyone laughed. That night my dad texted, "You're making things uncomfortable, just skip Christmas." I replied, "So does the funding." By 1 a.m. my phone was melting. 27 missed calls. It wasn't pretty at all from their side. My mom's 70th birthday was supposed to be a celebration. But from the moment Jamie and I walked into their house I could feel it, that strange shift in energy. Like we were background noise in our own family. They were all there already. My sister Trish, her husband, their kids, my parents. Everyone smiling too wide, drinking too fast, talking too loud. I knew that kind of energy. It wasn't warmth. It was tension wrapped in party balloons. Jamie had brought a drawing he'd worked on for days. A forest scene with tiny deer under a sky full of stars. He'd even used glitter, which he normally hated, just because he said Grandma might like it. I didn't tell him she wouldn't care. He handed it to her with both hands. She barely glanced at it before putting it down like it was junk mail. She didn't even say anything. I was already holding my breath when it happened. Caleb, Trish's 12-year-old, picked up the drawing, looked at it for 2 seconds, crumpled it into a ball and tossed it into the fireplace. The flames took it fast. Then he yelled loud enough for everyone to hear, "Nobody wants his crappy art anyway." And then the laughter started. Not from the kids. From the adults. My mother, who was supposed to be the reason we were all there, laughed first. Trish was wiping tears from her eyes like it was the best joke she'd ever heard. Even my dad chuckled. No one said a word to Caleb. Jamie just stood there. I think he thought it was part of the party at first. Then he looked at me. And he got it. I didn't say a word. I grabbed our coats, told him to put on his shoes, and we left. No dramatic exit. Just gone. Later that night around 9:30, while Jamie was brushing his teeth, my phone buzzed. It was my dad. "You're making things uncomfortable. Just skip Christmas." I stared at it for a second and typed back, "So does the funding." I meant it. For the past few years, I'd been quietly sending my parents $3,000 every December. It started when my business took off and they mentioned they were having a hard time covering Christmas. I never made a big deal of it. It was family. But this time I logged in and shut down the joint account we used. By 1 a.m. my phone was a war zone. 27 missed calls. Messages from my mom, my sister, even my dad. Everything from "How could you?" to "He's just a kid" to "You're blowing this out of proportion." I didn't respond. But they weren't done. The next morning I was in the kitchen making pancakes when I heard the front door open. I hadn't even realized I forgot to lock it. My parents walked in uninvited. Trish right behind them. Hildu. They didn't come to apologize. They came to argue. My mom started in about how disappointed she was. My dad talked about how money shouldn't come with strings. Trish said I was teaching Jamie to be weak. I told them to get out. They ignored me. Then Caleb pushed past me again, going straight toward Jamie. Said something about the drawing. Jamie backed up fast, slipped on the rug and hit the floor hard. It was his elbow. Scraped and bleeding. He tried not to cry, but I could see the tears. That was it. I turned to them and told them to get out. All of them. Right now. They tried to spin it. Said it wasn't intentional. Said it was an accident. Said Caleb was just being playful. I didn't care. I shut the door behind them and locked it. That was the beginning. I thought it was over when I locked the door behind them. But apparently in my family, being told to leave someone's home after your grandson gets shoved and your daughter says she's done, still isn't enough to register as serious. It started the next morning. Text from my mom. The kind that read more like damage control than actual concern. "Let's not make this bigger than it needs to be. We were all just joking around, Gloria. Don't take everything so personally." And then the real kicker. Jamie needs to toughen up. Life's not always nice. Not a word about what Caleb did. Not a word about the drawing. Nothing about Jamie getting hurt. Just excuses. Deflection. A small boy's feelings bulldozed under the weight of a birthday party and a trip they assumed I'd still be paying for. By noon Trish joined in. Her texts were straight up attacks. "You're being dramatic again. You're going to ruin Christmas over a piece of paper? Mom's heartbroken. Dad's sick over it. And your little art prodigy will live." That last one nearly made me throw my phone. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have something to say, but because I already had. That account, the joint one I used to send $3,000 every December, was empty. I closed it the night Jamie's drawing turned to ash in my parents' fireplace. They hadn't believed I would. Now they did. By evening my phone was lighting up nonstop. Missed calls from my mom, my dad, 2 from Trish's husband, and 1 random number I didn't recognize. I let every single one go to voicemail. I was sitting with Jamie, helping him organize his art supplies when the first voicemail came through. It was my dad. His voice was tight. Controlled. Like he was trying not to sound as panicked as he clearly was. He said he heard the account was closed and wanted to make sure it wasn't permanent. Said they'd already paid for the Christmas trip, non-refundable. The kids were excited. They bought ski gear. The resort was already charging late fees. Then came the quiet line at the end. We really counted on you this year. I didn't reply. They counted on me. That's the part that stuck. Not we're sorry. Not we messed up. Just we expected you to keep paying even if we treat your son like garbage. That night they came back. My parents. This time they knocked. Jamie was upstairs drawing, so I opened the door just enough to see both of them standing there in their coats, looking like they'd aged 10 years in 2 days. My dad opened with, "We just want to talk." My mom followed with, "We didn't realize how upset you were." I let them in. Mostly because I wanted to hear what version of the story they were telling themselves. It wasn't an apology. Not even close. They said they were sorry if I felt hurt. That maybe the joke went too far. But it was all said with this undertone of let's just move past this and get back to how things were. Like they were here to smooth things over just enough to still go on their Christmas trip. Then came the question. "Can you just help us this one last time?" I asked flatly if they had talked to Caleb. If anyone had told him that what he did was wrong. They looked at each other. My mom said they didn't want to make a big deal out of it, he was just being a kid. She actually said we didn't want to make him feel guilty over something silly. That was it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain anything. I opened the door and told them they had 5 seconds to leave. They did. That night, I sat next to Jamie while he sketched another version of the drawing that had gone up in flames. This one had no stars. Just trees. A little boy standing alone at the edge of them. No one else in sight. He didn't say much. But he didn't have to. I knew right then they didn't just lose the money. They were about to lose something far more permanent. And the worst part was, they had no idea it had already started. The ski trip was dead. That became official a few days before Christmas, though no one said it to my face. I found out through Trish's Instagram story. A photo of her sad-looking dining room centerpiece with the caption, "Plan B Christmas. Thanks for nothing." It was petty. Predictable. But also weirdly satisfying. Jamie and I spent that week tucked into our own world. We baked cookies, hung paper snowflakes around the house, even made handmade ornaments out of salt dough. No glitter this time. Jamie didn't want any. He said it reminded him of the drawing. I didn't push. We weren't pretending things were fine. But they were peaceful. Quiet. For once it was just about us, not damage control or tiptoeing around someone else's mood swings. On Christmas Eve my mom called. Her tone was bright. Like none of it had happened. They were hosting dinner at home now, just a small gathering. My parents, Trish and her family, a few neighbors. She said Jamie should come see his cousins, open presents. Said maybe it was time to let go of the tension and put things in the past. I didn't say yes at first. I told her I'd think about it. I wanted to protect Jamie. I didn't trust them. But he overheard the call and asked if we could go. Said he missed Grandma. Said maybe everyone would be nicer this time. I gave in. We arrived around 6. The house was decorated just like always. Over-the-top lights, ceramic reindeer on the porch, Bing Crosby playing from a Bluetooth speaker by the door. My mom opened it like we were long-lost guests, smiling too much. She hugged Jamie and said how glad she was we came. Inside nothing felt different. Trish was in the kitchen barking orders, her husband was drinking something brown and strong, and Caleb was on the couch with his phone, headphones in. He didn't even look up when Jamie walked in. We sat down for dinner around 7. It was quiet at first. Everyone pretending to be civilized. Jamie sat next to me pushing mashed potatoes around his plate. My mom brought out the good china. I remember thinking, funny how they only bring out the nice things when they want to look like good people. Halfway through dinner my dad gave a little speech. Talked about how proud he was of the family, how important forgiveness was. Everyone nodded along like we were in a commercial. Then came the moment I'll never forget. Trish leaned across the table, smiling just a little too wide and said, "Let's just hope no one throws a tantrum over paper this time." Silence. Then laughter. Soft at first. Then louder. My mom laughed. Her husband did that quiet chuckle he always does when he doesn't know if something is funny but doesn't want to be left out. Even my dad smiled. I looked at Jamie. He wasn't confused this time. He understood exactly what she meant. He looked down at his plate. I stood up. Picked up the porcelain plate in front of me, one of my mother's precious antiques she always bragged about, and let it slip from my hand. It shattered across the hardwood. The room went dead silent. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say a word. I just reached for Jamie's hand and walked us out. We didn't put on our coats. We didn't say goodbye. We got into the car and drove. Jamie didn't speak for a while. Then he asked quietly if I was mad at him, if he did something wrong. I told him no, that I was proud of him, that none of this was his fault. We got home and curled up on the couch, the tree lights still blinking, the air smelling like cinnamon and flour. I made us hot chocolate and let him fall asleep watching a movie. I was just starting to drift off too when there was a knock at the door. I didn't expect anyone. Then I saw the flashing lights through the window. A police car. Parked in front of my house. I opened the door. The officer asked if everything was okay. Said they'd received a call about a family dispute. Destruction of property. Said someone reported I'd broken things in anger and stormed out of a family gathering. I told him exactly what happened. That I'd broken one plate, my own mother's, in a house where my son was mocked again. That we left quietly. That nothing and no one was damaged beyond repair, except maybe whatever thread of decency my family had left. The officer looked embarrassed. Said he understood. Left within minutes. That's when it hit me. They hadn't called the cops because they were scared. They weren't afraid of me. They were trying to make a point. Trying to punish me for standing up for Jamie. For walking away. For cutting off their funding. They didn't want peace. They wanted control. But they weren't going to get it. This time they lost. They just hadn't figured it out yet. After the cops left, I just stood there staring at the door for a while. It was snowing again, the kind of slow, heavy flakes that made everything feel quieter than it really was. Jamie had already gone upstairs, curled under his blankets with the little flashlight I'd slipped into his stocking. He hadn't asked about the police. I think he just knew. Knew that the whole thing, the dinner, the mockery, the shattered plate, the flashing lights outside our home, it was all part of something deeper. And it was finally over. Or at least I thought so. I expected silence. Maybe some cold distance. But instead they doubled down. The next morning, Trish left me a 5-minute voice message. I didn't even bother playing it. Her name alone on the screen made my stomach turn. Then a text from my mom. So this is the example you're setting for your son? I didn't answer. I just sat on the floor next to the couch watching the snow pile up outside the window. Something about that text was almost laughable. The example I'm setting? As if Jamie hadn't watched his cousin destroy his artwork, get applauded for it, and then get handed a puppy 3 days later. And yes, that happened. 3 days after Christmas, my mom sent a picture to our old family group chat. Caleb holding a puppy, grinning like the prince of the house. Gold bow around its neck. Caption read, "Santa came through after all." The audacity. They knew what they were doing. That photo wasn't for sharing joy. It was bait. A message. We're fine. He's fine. You're the problem. I didn't take it. I left the chat and deleted the number. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. On New Year's Day I found something in my mailbox. Not a card. Not a gift. A single sheet of lined paper folded twice, no envelope. Just shoved in like an afterthought. I didn't have to open it to know whose handwriting it was. It was my dad's. I stood at the sink, coffee in one hand, and read, "I raised you better than this. You've embarrassed this family long enough. You are not welcome in this house until you apologize and make things right." That was all it said. No, Happy New Year. No mention of Jamie. Just blame, control, and silence where love was supposed to be. I tossed it in the trash. Then took it out, tore it into pieces, and tossed it again. But it wasn't me who found it first. Jamie did. I didn't even know until I saw him later that afternoon, sitting on the bottom step of the staircase, holding the letter in his lap. He didn't look sad. Just tired. He looked like someone who understood too much too early. He didn't ask me what it meant. He asked something else. He asked, "So we're not their family anymore?" I didn't know how to answer that right away. I just sat down next to him and said the only thing I knew to be true. We're always family to each other. That's what matters now. That night I packed a small bag for the two of us. I didn't tell Jamie where we were going. I just loaded up the car, left our phones in the kitchen drawer, and drove north. About 2 hours out, there's a tiny cabin rental I used to go to before I had Jamie. Nothing fancy. No TV, no Wi-Fi. Just trees, a wood stove, and complete quiet. We stayed 2 nights. On the first morning, Jamie walked out onto the porch and just stood there, staring at the snow. Said it felt like a different planet. I watched him from inside as he sat on the steps and started drawing. Just sketching the trees, the frozen lake in the distance, the chipped red paint on the railing. The second night after dinner, he handed me something folded in half. A drawing. It was the two of us inside the cabin sitting near the fire. His details were perfect. The little blanket I'd thrown over the chair, the cocoa mugs on the windowsill, the tiny pine tree we found behind the cabin and stuck in a vase. At the bottom he'd written one sentence in big block letters. "This is what family feels like." I didn't cry. I just folded it carefully, tucked it into the front pocket of my wallet, and held onto it like it was more valuable than anything I'd ever owned. The next morning before we left, Jamie asked if we were ever going back to Grandma and Grandpa's house. I told him the truth. Not unless they change. He nodded. then went back to sketching the frozen trees. That was the moment I knew. I didn't need their approval, their invitations, their letters pretending to be ultimatums. I had what mattered, and I wasn't going to give it up for anything. The silence in January was louder than the chaos that came before it. No more calls. No texts. No passive-aggressive photos. For almost 2 weeks it was like we didn't exist to them. And maybe that should have felt like relief. But it didn't. Not entirely. The house was peaceful, sure. Jamie was back to drawing, sleeping well, laughing more. But there was this quiet ache in me, like a bruise I couldn't see but kept pressing on anyway. It wasn't longing. It was unfinished business. There was something about the way it all ended. The police, the letter, the guilt games, that made it feel like the door had slammed shut but I hadn't actually locked it. And a part of me, a part one hated, still needed to try once more. Not for them. For me. I didn't want to carry this into the rest of the year. I didn't want to wonder 10 years from now if there was something else I could have done. So, on a quiet Saturday afternoon, I made a decision I never thought I'd make again. We drove to their house. Jamie didn't ask why. He just packed a few pencils and his sketchbook and got in the car. That was the thing about him. He always knew when something mattered more than I wanted to admit. It had snowed that morning. Not much, just enough to cover the sidewalks and turn the trees silver. Their driveway was half cleared, like someone had started shoveling but gave up halfway through. When I knocked, I expected hesitation. Pause. Maybe a look of surprise. But my mom opened the door like I was a neighbor dropping off a package. No hug. No hello. Just a quiet, sharp, come in. We stepped inside. Everything looked the same. Same candles on the mantel. Same photos on the wall. Same heavy silence hanging in the air. My dad was in his recliner, glasses on, holding a book he clearly wasn't reading. He looked up at me, then back down. Trish wasn't there. For once I was glad. I kept it short. I said I came because I didn't want to walk away from them wondering if I had done everything I could. That I wasn't there to fight. I was there to ask one question. Do you think what happened to Jamie was okay? My mom sat down slowly on the edge of the couch and sighed, like she was already exhausted by me. Then she said, kids fight. That's what they do. Caleb didn't mean to hurt anyone. You just made a scene. Then she looked at Jamie, sitting beside me with his sketchbook open in his lap, and added, we've always loved Jamie. You're the one keeping him away. I looked at my dad. He hadn't said a word. Just kept pretending to read. So I tried again. I told them it wasn't about the money. Not anymore. It wasn't about the plate or even the drawing. It was about a pattern. A long, exhausting pattern of dismissing, ignoring, blaming. And this time it was aimed at Jamie. That crossed a line I couldn't let go of. My mom rolled her eyes and said, you've always been sensitive, Gloria. You overreact. You always have. And that was it. That was the moment. That one sentence was all I needed to hear to know it hadn't been about Jamie at all. It never had been. This had always been the story. I overreact. I cause trouble. I make things uncomfortable. I turn peace into tension. That's what they believed. What they wanted to believe. Because it meant they never had to change. I stood up. Told Jamie to grab his things. And then as I turned to leave, my dad finally spoke. Quiet. Flat. This is what happens when you raise a boy without a real man in the house. I froze. For half a second I thought I misheard. But Jamie heard it too. I felt him go still beside me. I didn't respond. I just looked him in the eyes long enough for him to look away. Then we walked out. No slamming the door. No parting shot. Just silence. In the car, Jamie didn't say anything for most of the drive. I kept glancing over at him, waiting, worried. But when we pulled into our driveway, he looked at me and said something I'll never forget. I don't think they know how to be sad for other people. Only for themselves. It wasn't something I'd ever said to him. But somehow he saw it. That night after dinner he handed me a new drawing. A little boy and his mom walking down a snowy road, a tall house in the background with no lights on, and one sentence written in careful block letters across the top. Some doors don't open the right way. I hung it on our fridge. Not as a reminder of the pain, but as proof that my son sees what I see. That he understands more than they ever gave him credit for. And that the door I closed behind us that day, it's not one I'll ever try to open again. January passed and life kept going, like it always does. The snow outside our windows began to melt in patches, dirty and uneven, like even winter was tired of holding on. Jamie settled back into school. I buried myself in work. We made breakfast together most mornings. Sometimes waffles, sometimes just toast and apples. And slowly the house began to feel normal again. But there was still something under the surface. Not anger. Not sadness exactly. More like the echo of something that used to be loud and constant, now just quiet. But not gone. That kind of silence doesn't fill itself overnight. We hadn't heard a single word from them since the day I walked out of their house with Jamie's hand in mine. Not a check-in, not a text, not even a backhanded guilt message. Nothing. It was strange. I had braced myself for another explosion. A new wave of blame. Maybe even a surprise visit. But they chose something worse. They erased us. And for a while that hollow space sat in me like a room no one ever entered, full of things I didn't want to touch but couldn't throw out. Then in early February, a number I didn't recognize showed up on my phone. Voicemail. It was Trish. Her voice was calm, like we hadn't just set fire to our family 3 weeks ago. She said she'd heard we were doing fine, whatever that meant. That Caleb missed Jamie. That maybe the kids could at least see each other for their sake. She said there's no reason to keep punishing everyone over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I didn't finish the message. I deleted it and blocked the number. Because the truth is, Jamie doesn't miss Caleb. He misses having cousins who didn't treat him like a side character in his own story. He misses having a grandma who looked at his art like it mattered. He misses the version of family I told him we had. The version I tried to protect until it shattered on the floor with that plate. He doesn't talk about any of it much. But the way he draws says everything. Last week he handed me a new sketch. A row of houses at night, snow on the rooftops, all the windows dark except one. Ours. The one glowing gold from inside. I asked him why only ours had the lights on. He said, because that's the one where it's warm. I didn't cry. I just kissed the top of his head and taped the drawing to the fridge. That same night I opened the bottom drawer of my nightstand and found the old family photo from last Christmas. The one with all of us in matching sweaters, arms linked, smiles wide. I stared at it for a long time. Then I slid it back in face down. Not out of hate. Not even pain. Just clarity. Because I finally understand, I didn't lose a family. I lost a performance. The difference between what they showed the world and how they treated us when no one was watching. That gap was always there. I just kept stepping over it, hoping it would shrink. Hoping love would fill it in. But real love doesn't come with rules. Or conditions. Or police reports. Real love looks like standing by your child even when the room turns against you. It looks like walking away even when your hands shake. It looks like starting over, with less noise, fewer people but more truth. Now our home is quiet but full. There are no forced smiles. No fake invitations. Just me and Jamie learning what peace really sounds like. I don't know if they'll ever change. I don't think it matters anymore. Because the door behind us is shut. And the one ahead. It's wide open.